a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes, where we're changing the world. Wait for it, one ohm at a time. Here on the first Thursday of the month, we do as we always do, which is we kidnap Matt Connarton from Matt Connarton Unleashed. We pluck him right up after his own radio show from 4 to 6, Monday through Friday, on WMNH 95.3, Manchester, New Hampshire, or you can listen to his drive time show at mattconnerton.com or ipmnation.com. You can listen to it anywhere in the world, weigh in on all of whatever Matt's doing, whether he is hosting local bands and sharing music, or whether he's talking politics. We bring Matt over, we pluck him out of Matt Connarton Unleashed, we drop him into the Dr. Kevin world, mostly to discuss politics, though we do vary. We do have a variety of things that we'll hedge around or we'll talk about, but we mostly like to just get Matt's perspective, because Matt does not consider himself either a Democratic or Republican. He considers himself an independent that makes independent decisions. But, you know, with our current political situation, Matt, what if you had one or two words for today's current political situation, what would those one or two words be?
Oh, I don't know. FUBAR?
I was kind of thinking shit show. But, you know, but if you would like to be part of this conversation, you could do so by calling 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057. And as long as your commentary is respectful, we'll continue to let you make it. If it's not, we FUBAR shit show you and throw your ass off the air. Right, Matt?
That's right.
Unlike the Matt Connarton show, where the more disrespectful it is, the more Matt laughs and loves it.
That's also right.
So, Matt, you know, it's so sad that there's just nothing going on in the world today we can talk about. I mean, your show must have been full of empty air recently because there's so little going on.
Oh, I know. It's
but
so dull.
I'm sure if you dig down deep, there must be a few things that you can comment on in this month's Dr. Kevin Meets the Political Reality World of Matt Connarton. What's been the hot topics on your show this week, or those last 4 weeks, should I say?
Oh, God, I don't know. It's all over the place. There's always so much. It's hard to pick something. I mean, if you ask me something, I can probably tell you what we talked about around it, because we probably did talk about it. But it's hard to pick things at this point because there's just so much.
So I'd like to get your commentary or your thoughts on the whole Elon Musk turning off the satellite link when the Ukraine was getting ready to send a bunch of drones after the Russian Navy that were trying to shut off the, I believe it was the wheat sales, and that he shut off so the drones couldn't be used, saying that he feared nuclear retaliation. What did you guys come up with around that? Is Elon Musk being conservative, or is he being a Russian bot trader?
Well, you know what? I have to admit, so you got me. We actually haven't talked about that on the show. I don't know. I mean, I don't trust the guy, certainly. But I don't know a lot of the details around that. I mean, the last time I talked about Elon Musk, I mean, we did talk about him on the show recently, but it was It had to do with he's suing the Anti-Defamation League for defamation, or accusing him of defamation or something, some other silly thing. So I don't know a lot of the details around this, specifically what you've asked me about.
Yeah, well, it was reported both on the Daily Beast and CNN that Ukraine was getting ready to do a counteroffensive against the Russian Navy, that he turned the link down, and that's what he said, that he was afraid of nuclear retaliation. But there was a lot of discussion around, should Elon Musk have that much power to affect, or should we as a government be stepping in here? I mean, what private citizen should have that ability? I mean, we all know that the only bigger botched thing than X, as it's called now, or his blown up space mission, is his ego. But do we really want somebody having that much power on the international stage? Because I'm sure if we look into it hard enough, somewhere we had some funding or some development that came out of the U.S. military or something that somewhere would give us the right to, like, say, hey, we didn't make you king of the world. You don't get to make those choices. I don't know.
I think the challenge with that might be, and again, I'm not too much. Well, I'm not an expert on this. Let's put it that way. On this particular subject, but my impression has always been that Musk is kind of doing everybody a favor by allowing, what is it called? It's not Earthlink. What or maybe it is. There's a specific name for this satellite system. Anyway, Musk is not under any obligation to allow the Ukrainians to use this system. So he's kind of doing everybody a favor because he's actively losing money with this. That's my understanding. So I'm not sure how he could be compelled to cooperate. Oh, Starlink. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, Starlink. But again, I don't know much about it, but I don't know what kind of an arrangement he has with the Pentagon or anything about that. But I don't know if there's any way to, like, really force him not to do that, not to turn it off if he wants to, unfortunately.
Well, it would not be the first time that our government or multiple governments throughout history have decided if something is an issue that involves national security, that they seize it.
True, but I think in this case that might be more difficult because it's not necessarily about our national security, but about Ukraine. I think that probably complicates things too. So I mean, morally and ethically, I agree with you, but I don't know if in a practical sense, I don't know if there's much we can do. Oh, I see Glenn R.J. Willett outside. You know Glenn. I see the top of his head from where I am. But, that's unfortunate that Musk did that, and I hope he doesn't continue to do that in terms of, shutting things off and trying to sabotage the Ukrainians like that, which I assume was his intention.
Yep. Well, when he takes actions which are counter to what we're taking actions for, which is about indirectly maintaining the safety and security of this country by not letting Russia take over the eastern part of Europe, one country at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think a case, I don't know. I don't know if a case can be made or not, but I think that this is definitely this tipsy-topsy world we have of too few people having too much power, is almost reminiscent of the Dark Ages.
Right.
I don't know. Am I being overly something? I don't know.
Morally and ethically, I think you're absolutely correct. I just don't know practically and legally if there's an easy solution there, unfortunately.
So, what did you think about Peter Navarro? $200,000 and 2 years in prison. You think that it's actually going to happen? Because he's going to try to contest it, just like Bannon is.
Dr. Kevin, catch me up on that if you would, because there was a breaking development on that, I think, while I was on the air, if I'm not mistaken, and then I didn't, because we were doing something else on my show, I didn't get a chance to really look at it. But has he been sentenced? Is that what's happened?
Oh, yes. He was convicted of contempt for defying the committee. So he has been he's been convicted because he both didn't provide documents that he was subpoenaed for, nor did he show up. So he was convicted of 2 contempts, and he faced punishable up to a year behind bars. And I read somewhere that each one came with a $100,000 fine.
Okay.
So, but he has been found guilty.
Okay. Wow. Excellent. Good. I'm glad. I assume now. I was going to say I assume he will appeal it, but I don't know. He's been crying poverty because yesterday he was on the news talking about, he's been talking to the media quite a bit, and there's this one woman who's been protesting against him, who's been giving him a hard time, which has been funny to watch. But he's been saying he doesn't have much money for lawyers. But it seems like a lot of the people who've gotten mixed up with Trump don't have money for lawyers, because it's not like Trump is stepping up to help any of them. But so he may not be able to appeal it, and I think he wears a lot of black, but I think he'll look great in orange, and perhaps for him, orange will be the new black. See what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did. So, yep. I mean, and then 22 years. The Proud Boy leader got.
Yes, Enrique Tarrio.
Enrique, yep. Who I am reading had been offered if he pleaded guilty, had been offered a much lower sentence, and he decided to go to court. So this is like 4 of the top dogs in the January 6th. Do you think there is going to be, how do you think this will affect any of the Trump stuff? And do you think that if this comes out as it was an insurrection, it was, that these charges, could this blow back on any of the people in Congress that were involved? What are your thoughts?
Well, we don't know that anyone in Congress was. I mean, has it been? I might be forgetting something. Has it been certainly not established, but has it been implied that there was anyone in Congress who was actively involved with the Proud Boys?
Yeah. I've heard things about that they were people in Congress that were in conversation or were giving information. And then, of course, there is the Ginny Thomas text with Mark Meadows talking about how it is calling this a war, so to speak. I mean, some of the people that were, I've heard lots of references to people that there was stuff that was going back and forth between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jim Jordan and some of the others. Am I just making all this up in my head? Am I delusional?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. And I do recall now that you mentioned Jim Jordan, that he got very nervous when people started asking him about his communications with Trump on that day. But now that I'm thinking about it, so there was a congressman, I cannot for the life of me remember his name, but there was a congressman who was kind of a person of interest because he was seen giving tours right before everything happened, and the tours were very thorough, unusually so there was some suspicion. I can't remember who it was, though, and then we never heard any more about it. So it may have been that there was nothing there, or at least nothing that we know of. So I don't know, but I'm glad to see Enrique Tarrio get punished. Apparently he was very contrite at his sentencing, but up to that point, he had shown no remorse. But I think it is important to that people like him are punished to try to discourage further violence. Are you searching for something, Dr. Kevin? It sounds like you're looking for something.
Well, no, I'm trying to, we've got 4 very significant things, and I'm trying to kind of look at, No,
I meant physically. It sounds like you're looking for something in a drawer.
Oh, sorry, that's just my normal walking around, picking things up, putting it down, blah, 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 blah. Sorry.
I gotcha. So, I was curious.
But anyways, any of this, how do you think it's going to affect the Trump stuff? And of course, now we have he just lost another thing around Jean Carroll, that this is just how much money he doesn't get to protest anymore, and he's lost the case. But How do you think this affects any of the other stuff?
Well, I mean, as far as him running for president, it's great. It's all great for him in terms of the nomination. He's told his followers, and I use the term followers very deliberately, that, he's effectively martyred himself. He says, they're not after me, they're after us, they're after you. That's why they're after me, and this kind of thing. And they just keep sending him more and more money. After that mugshot was released, I think he raised $7 million in one day. So it all helps him in terms of becoming the nominee. I don't think it helps him in the general election, certainly. But it all but assures he'll be the nominee. And, I've said all along he's going to be the nominee. And looking at recent polling data, I'm more certain of it than ever. He'll definitely be the nominee. So it all helps him in that regard.
So they're looking into fraud with Sidney Powell and money that she raised to overturn the election and what it was used for versus what it was said it was being raised for, and where did these dollars actually go? Do you think that that is a foreshadowing of something that may happen with Trump with all of this stuff? Or do you just think that she's screwed, and do you think she's going to turn on Trump?
I don't think she's smart enough to turn on Trump. I think she's just out of her mind, to be honest with you. And I think, and I kind of suspect that a lot of what she did was probably independent of Trump, in that one thing I do think Trump is a little bit smart about is I think he insulates himself from things. I think he this is just an impression. I could be completely wrong, but I have an impression that he has a way of sort of communicating to people around him, probably not explicitly, but implicitly, hey, do whatever you got to do and don't tell me about it. I don't want to know about it. That's my impression. Because we do know that he's careful in the sense that he doesn't like to text. He doesn't like to email. He seems to be oblivious to the fact that phone calls can easily be recorded. But he doesn't like to text and he doesn't like to email. He doesn't want to be attached to things. He doesn't want to be associated with things that might come back to bite him. And then when a phone call comes back to bite him, he just claims it was a perfect phone call. And of course his followers believe him. But so I suspect that a lot of what she's done, or Cheese Bro, or Chess Bro, however you say it, things that he's done, I suspect a lot of that may have genuinely been without his knowledge and consent. But again, my impression is he kind of tells people, again, not necessarily explicitly, but he kind of tells people, do what you got to do, get this done, and I don't need to know the details. That's my impression. Even with the classified documents, he's telling this guy, telling that guy, move these, put them somewhere else, but I don't think he ever wants to be too involved in the details because, obviously he knows what he's doing is wrong and he doesn't want to be incriminated. And he might actually be kind of like a mob boss. He might actually be smart enough to insulate himself in some ways in those areas. That's my impression.
So, okay. So let's talk about, now there's a group, the acronym is CREW. I can't remember what it stands for. They're out of Colorado. They have filed a lawsuit that says Trump can't run for election because of the 14th Amendment. There's talk in New Hampshire that people are going to say that legally he cannot run because of what he did and his involvement. Is any of that going to get any traction? What do you think?
Yeah, this is something we did explore on the show this week in some depth. Ellie Honig on CNN, their top legal correspondent, he was kind of the first one I heard really go out of his way to throw cold water on this whole thing. And there's two problems with it, with this idea of invoking the 14th Amendment to keep Trump off the ballot in certain states. The first problem is there's no mechanism to do it. So even if you say, okay, well, he's disqualified and we're going to keep him off the ballot, how do you do that? Do you get some sort of a court? Do you go to the state Supreme Court in that state and get some sort of injunction keeping him off the ballot? This has never been tried. It's never been tested. So how do you do it? Actually, I'm wrong about that. I don't remember when exactly, but I think in the distant past it was tested, not for the presidency, but for another office, keeping someone off a ballot, and it didn't work. I don't remember any details further than that, but there's that mechanism of, it's similar to when we were talking about invoking the 14th Amendment for another purpose, a different section of the 14th Amendment, to raise the debt limit. And there was a lot of conversation around, well, can't the president just invoke the 14th and raise the limit himself unilaterally? And part of the danger of that was, well, there doesn't seem to be a mechanism to do that. It's never been tried. It's never been tested. So how would that even work? So we seem to have the same issue with this. So if state attorneys general or secretaries of state in these different states, if they even attempt to do this, what would the process be? Do they just unilaterally decide on their own? Well, I don't think Trump is eligible, which brings us to the other problem. Who decides? Who makes the determination until he's actually been convicted? Who makes the determination that Trump is in fact guilty of sedition? Now, if you ask me, I think he is, clearly. I think he caused the insurrection on January 6th, and he certainly gave aid and comfort to the enemy when he made that video telling the domestic terrorists, as I call them, the people who stormed the Capitol, when he told them, I love you, I'm with you, I understand why you're upset, you should be upset. So, and now he goes around talking about how he's inclined to pardon them if he's elected president. So that's ongoing, giving aid and comfort to the enemy. That's my read on it. But until he's actually convicted, well, even if he is convicted, not everyone's going to agree, obviously. But so it's I don't think it's I think it's a non-starter. I don't think it's going anywhere. It would be nice to see that happen, and I think he should be disqualified. And I think they should have convicted him at that second impeachment and been done with it. But they didn't, and I don't think it's going to work. I don't think there's a way to keep him off the ballot in any of these states, unfortunately.
Well, unfortunately, you may be correct, though there's a lot of talk that if a lawsuit is filed for this, that it's going to end up at the Supreme Court. And that's anyone's guess, because the Supreme Court doesn't necessarily have to provide what the mechanism is to make it happen. They can just rule that it has to happen. Mm-hmm. But the question would be, would this Supreme Court do that?
Right. I mean, and obviously it's a very conservative court, so.
Who are originalists that say that they go by the letter of the Constitution, and therefore they could throw Trump under the bus.
They could. Be great to see.
Yeah, especially since, he illegally appointed at least two of them. But anyways, it's kind of it is kind of a strange world we're living in. These are all things that we have never seen in the history of our country. How does it all end? Oh, here is the music. You get a chance to think about that for a second as we go on our first break.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
if you could find a way,
To get inside.
each other's mind.
walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org, brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Angry citizens, and we're back. So, Matt?
Yes.
What's your best guess? How does all this end?
How does, I think probably an asteroid, but I'm just guessing. I'm just basing that on the nightmares that I have. Is that what you meant? How does the world end?
No.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood.
How does this current political foobar end?
Oh, I don't know. I define end, because it never truly ends. What do you mean by end? Like the election, or what do you mean?
Well, I mean, do you think Trump's going to be president again? Do you think that this is going to create the end of the GOP, as many people have predicted? No. Do you think that this is going to create a third party coming in? I mean, Ted parties live and die in the history of we don't have Whigs anymore, and we don't have Federalists anymore. They have evolved and changed. And depending on how all of this goes, I think there's something to be said that the GOP is going to have to do something besides get behind raising the voting age to 25, which ain't going to happen.
No,
but it's been proposed. Of course.
By who? Then Vivek.
Yeah.
Did he? I thought so. No, I think, as far as, the GOP is not going anywhere. It just, it changes. It's right now, it's a cult of personality around Donald Trump, and I think it'll remain that way until he dies. But I think that, could he be president again? Yeah, absolutely. Polling data shows it's going to be a close election. I think Biden can beat him again, because I can't imagine that Trump is expanding his base among independents. Independents who abandoned him, who may have voted for him in 2016, but then abandoned him in 2020. I can't imagine they're looking at him now going, well, you know what? I went for Biden in 2020, but now that I see Trump with all these indictments, I'm giving him a second look. So he's not, he's consolidating his base, but he's not expanding his base. So, but unfortunately, we have a president who's going to be 81 in November. And something that I've been saying on my show, Dr. Kevin, and others are generally hesitant to say it, although I finally heard somebody else in media say it the other day. I thought I was the only one. But it is impolite, but it's just the reality of it. President Biden is only one Mitch McConnell moment away from handing the presidency to Donald Trump. If Joe Biden, God forbid, if he has a moment, can you imagine if it happens during one of the debates? That would be the worst thing. If Joe Biden has a moment where he freezes up, or he, forgets and some of the, sometimes he forgets what he's talking about anyway, but if Joe Biden has like a true, I guess the term would be senior moment, a true senior moment publicly during a debate or even while giving a speech, or even if it happens privately, at the White House, but then word leaks out to the public that it's happened, where he just freezes up or anything like that, he's done. He's done, and he will have handed the presidency over to Trump. That's why I feel President Biden is very selfish and needs to get out of the race. He needs to let somebody else in there because, if he were to step aside, I don't mean resign. I mean, he can serve out his term, but he's his legacy is secure, and if you're someone who likes what he's done. His legacy is secure, and but he risks his legacy if his legacy ends up being the guy who beat Trump and got Trump out of the White House only to hand it back to him 4 years later. I don't think he wants that to be his legacy, and there's a real risk that could be his legacy. Something that we talked about on my show last week, and I don't know if you saw this, this is not filtered through the mainstream media much, to my surprise. But Mark Halperin, who is a mainstream media guy, was on Michael Smerconish's radio show, and that, that's pretty mainstream, right? And according to Mark Halperin, high-level sources close to Biden are saying privately that the president has actually changed his mind and is not going to seek a second term, but they're keeping it quiet, and he's proceeding like business as normal for the campaign because they're trying to figure out the off-ramp, because they don't necessarily want it to be a Kamala Harris coronation, even though she's next in line, and they don't necessarily, but they also want to be fair to her, but they also don't know if she can beat Trump, and maybe Gavin Newsom would be better. So I don't know why this isn't filtering through the mainstream media. Halperin's a credible journalist. He's not some fringe guy. But yeah, Halperin says that the decision has already been made, and Biden will not seek a second term, and that an announcement is imminent, but the longer they wait, the harder it's going to be to get somebody else in there if they don't want it to be Kamala Harris, because she has very high negatives with people, although that can be fixed. Yeah, so he may be getting out. But if he stays in, he risks being the guy who handed the presidency back to Trump. And I don't think he wants that to be his legacy.
Well, let's hope from Mark's ears to the lips, from Mark's lips to the ears of God, as I like to say, that, Biden is going to find a way, a strategy to bow out. And he has definitely gotten much more aggressive in his Trump commentary. He just ignored Trump for ages, but now he's kind of going after him with some of these comments and stuff.
Yeah, a little bit. He has to tread very lightly, because obviously it's awkward, because he doesn't want to be seen, he doesn't want to play into what Republicans complain about constantly, that Biden has weaponized his White House, that has weaponized the DOJ against Trump. So he doesn't want to be, commenting much on Trump's legal problems, but at the same time, Trump is his opponent. Not officially, because Trump hasn't secured the nomination yet, but it's going to be Trump. Everyone knows it's going to be Trump. But that's another reason why Biden should get out, because if Biden were to announce that he's changed his mind, he's not going to seek a second term, anyone else who's getting into the race, they're free to, as long as it's not someone currently in Biden's cabinet, I guess. Yeah, so actually for Kamala Harris, it would still be a problem because she's part of the administration. But if somebody from outside of the administration is running, they could, for the Democratic nomination, they would be free to talk as much as they wanted to about Trump's legal troubles. They would be just as free to do that as Chris Christie is, you know? So that would be another reason for Biden to get out. He's got so much, I mean, he's got the age thing. He also has this other problem, which is his son, who continues to just be an albatross. He's got to get out. He's just got to go. And again, I don't mean resign. I just mean, you know, not run for re-election.
So, what were your thoughts about the Republican debate?
Let's see. Well, I'll tell you who I actually liked a little bit, even though I don't support his policies. I don't agree with him, and I would never support him. But Mike Pence, I will say this: I've been very tough on Mike Pence. He actually showed, you know, it's funny. He took criticism for this, but I liked it. He actually showed a little bit of passion and a little bit of anger during the debate. And I like seeing that from him because I just always assumed that he's just this empty husk of a man, incapable of actual human emotion. But it didn't seem phony to me either. He actually showed some genuine, what I thought anyway, was genuine emotion. And I kind of appreciated that. Although some people thought he came off angry, but I said, well, that's good. You know, let him be angry. That's fine. Vivek Ramaswamy, a lot of people felt that he won the debate and had a really good showing. I thought he came off like a clown. But a lot of people thought he did well. and I guess it's shown in the polls. He's up a little bit. Let's see, who else? Chris Christie did what I expected, you know, which is good. I like seeing him being, you know, he's the one person out there who's really willing to go at Trump. Nikki Haley, I thought, had some very strong moments. Tim Scott, I thought, was fine. Some people have been critical of his debate performance. He didn't have any standout moments, but I thought he was fine. He seemed pretty solid. Who else? Asa Hutchinson, he was just Asa Hutchinson. I did talk on my show. So Doug Burgum, I thought, had a standout moment that nobody else in any media, conservative, liberal, any corner of media was talking about. But I talked about it on my show. He had a moment where he kind of stood up for public education and for teachers in public schools when he talked about how in his state some of the things that they had done for public schools and how he felt it was important to give public school teachers the support that they need and so forth. And I thought he spoke very eloquently. It wasn't an applause line. I don't think the audience reacted one way or the other, actually. But it stood out to me because Republicans spend a lot of time tearing down public education. They talk about public school teachers like they're all trying to indoctrinate and turn your kids gay or trans or something. You know, just this crazy stuff that Republicans are always talking about, and they're always very down on public education. So to hear a conservative Republican stand on that stage and really stand up for teachers and stand up for the public school system, I thought was a great moment, and nobody else was talking about that. Probably because it didn't get any reaction from the crowd one way or another. It just kind of fell flat in terms of the reaction that it got. But for me, I was like, oh, good for him. I mean, he has no chance of being the nominee, but I thought that was cool that he did that. Who else was there? I'm forgetting somebody. Who am I forgetting?
DeSantis.
Oh, DeSantis. Yeah. Well, he was forgettable. Oh, actually, one notable thing about DeSantis, though, I mean, he seemed nervous, kind of not ready for prime time. But you know what? I don't think I heard the word woke out of his mouth, or wokeness or wokeism. I don't think I heard that once during the entire debate come out of him, and that was unusual. Now, there is polling data recently that shows that Republicans really are kind of tired of hearing about woke and wokeness and wokeism all the time. So that might be why. Maybe it's finally getting through to him that, hey, that stuff isn't working. People don't really know what you're talking about. people are concerned with economic issues. They're not really that worried about, they're not as worried about trans people and critical race theory as you might think they are. Governor, this stuff isn't playing very well. And he may have taken that advice, because I was genuinely surprised by that. And pleased to not have to hear about wokeness, because usually that's his go-to. Usually he blames everything on wokeness. Anything you could throw at him, any issue at all. If you ask him about climate change, he'd probably tell you it's climate change is because of trans people. So it was sort of refreshing in a way not to hear that from him. Other than that, I mean, his performance was pretty flat. And I think that's it. That's everybody, right? There were 8 people there. Did we get everybody?
You talked to Nikki Haley, you talked Chris Christie, you talked Vivek, you talked DeSantis, you talked Asa, you talked Doug, you talked Mike Pence. That's 7.
That's 7? Who are we missing?
7 I've named, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I mean, some people called it the auditioning, except for Chris Christie and probably Nikki Haley, and definitely Mike Pence. That everybody else there was really auditioning to be Trump's VP pick.
Oh, yeah. I even referred to it on my show as the 2024 Republican vice presidential nomination debate. Yeah. Oh, of course.
So, yeah. Now, I always like to ask you this question because you're very good. You're always very good at what are people not talking about that you think that they should be? What's going on that is, you're like, people are not paying attention to this and should be?
Something that's not getting enough attention is this is being talked about, but I'll throw it out there because it should be getting more attention than it is. Senator Tommy Tuberville holding up these nominations for the military. It's really causing a problem because he doesn't want to give in on abortion. And speaking of, I talked earlier about how selfish Biden is. He's got nothing on Tommy Tuberville. What a POS this guy is. But yeah, people should be talking more about that. I mean, it's getting attention, but probably not enough because it's really causing a problem with military readiness. Also, did you see Mike Huckabee came right out and said if Trump loses in 2024, it could be the last election that is won with ballots instead of bullets. Did you see that?
Yep. So let's stay with Tuberville for a second.
Yeah.
Because you are more in touch with a lot of this stuff than I know I am. What, if anything, could they be doing that they're not doing to take the power away from this man? Because I read things like even the Republican, McConnell and people like that are not really supporting Tuberville, but they're not pressuring him either. But is there any workaround? Is there a workaround that somebody just doesn't want to launch, go nuclear to make it happen? Because we're talking hundreds of, and besides the fact it's screwing over all of those poor innocent military people, but it's also the key positions that are at risk. What is the nuclear option for Tuberville?
There is something that Senator Chuck Schumer could do. From what I understand, he could put each individual who's up for a promotion, which should have been approved by now. He can put them up individually as nominees for their positions, and start the problem with that is it would take a long time, because instead of just all of these people being approved in a perfunctory manner, each individual would be put up as a nominee for their promotion, and then you'd have to vote, and so Tuberville wouldn't be able to stop it because it would be a majority vote, and obviously everyone would be approved, but you'd have to do them one at a time. So I think Schumer is reluctant to do it for that reason. Now, I think he should do it. I think Schumer should just say, okay, this is what we're going to have to do then, and we're going to have some late nights here at the Senate, but we're going to get this done because we have to do it, and this is the only way we can do it. That's what I think Schumer should do. He's reluctant to do that, apparently. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if it's because politically he feels that this is damaging to the Republicans, what Tuberville is doing, or maybe he just doesn't want to spend those late nights at the Senate. But or maybe it's just, I'm always talking about how Democrats, they don't tend to want to fight dirty, even though the Republicans have no problem fighting dirty. So, but it would be well within the rules, of course. So it wouldn't really even be fighting duty. It would just be, using power to get this done. So there is a remedy, and it may come to that. It doesn't look like Tuberville's going to back down. He's pretty well dug in, and he doesn't seem to be at all concerned, or he seems to be in denial about the damage that this is doing to the military. But he doesn't seem to mind. So,
well, he's got 4 years left before he's up for election.
Yeah, I mean, he's a senator. He's got plenty of time. So I don't know, and I don't know if there's even another option, if there's anything Biden can do by executive order on this. Maybe there is, but Democrats get nervous about using their power. It scares them. So,
well, I mean, I guess one of my questions would be, would there be a procedural, like, if I decided to start doing this one at a time, that there would be a forced order, like the oldest ones would have to go first, or could he take these very high-level, really needed positions, which kind of screws over the average guy, the ex-military, but, I mean, and, could they do something like that? And I don't know that answer. But, could there be a kind of a, let's just talk about the head of the Navy, the head, like the really key positions, like, could those just go up, or is there an order? Do you have any idea, or that's kind of beyond your pay grade?
Yeah, it's beyond my pay grade. I don't know how it would work exactly. But something's got to be done. I mean, this is impacting military readiness. That impacts our national security. It's no joke, as President Biden would say. Come on, man, as President Biden would also say. So,
McConnell, you think they're going to try to force him out?
No, I doubt it. And it sounds like he's okay. It sounds like this is, kind of a residual problem as a result of that concussion that he had. So it sounds like he's probably fine. But I think he's in that Senate seat for quite a few more years. So, but he said
26, I think.
Okay, yeah. So he's got a few years. So we'll see. We'll see how he does. But yeah, I mean, I think if it were something that looked like it was going to be a long-term problem, that would be different. But if it's residual effects of the concussion that he sustained, then in theory, from what I understand, Not that I'm a medical professional, but just from what I've read, it's probably it's a problem that will resolve, and he'll be fine. But, but at that age, there's other things that can go wrong, so we'll see.
McCarthy. Again, he's screwed. The nutcases are running the insane asylum. Are we going to see a government shutdown?
Probably. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. I think it could go either way. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I mean, I hope not. It costs the economy an enormous amount of money every time the government shuts down. I'd rather not see it. But I think it's quite possible. But he's he's the weakest Speaker of the House ever in history, really. I mean, the deals he had to make to get through that 15 votes and then finally get confirmed as Speaker. He's constantly got a gun to his head, in a sense, But, no, I think it could go either way, actually. I mean, he did try to make the case the other day that, look, you all want to impeach Biden, but we can't impeach Biden if we're in the middle of a government shutdown. So you have to pick one. He's saying this to the House Freedom Caucus. You got to pick one. We can't do both. So we'll see. Could go either way.
Well, if they shut the government and then the economy numbers get bad, then they're going to try to play Biden. Because right now, the economy numbers look way too good for the Republicans to make a case of that's why you get rid of Biden.
No, they make the case anyway.
Not a good one.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's see what's happening at the beginning of October. I'm sure there'll be lots of news because that's just the way things are these days.